Thank you very much, Dr. Smaine, Zeroug, for your presentation and for sharing with us your knowledge and experience in this important and be part of International Copy Meta Congress. Now we're going to present our moderator, Dr. Julio Guerrero, who was in the first conference that led this important Congress. And this opportunity, he's going to be in the Q&A and conducting the roundtable. Julio Guerrero he guides corporations around the world with their needs, development technological needs. He's a CEO and founder of Cambridge Research and Technology, a consulting firm leading in science and engineering, Cambridge, Boston, and he's a member of University Grants Committee in Hong Kong. For the start of the question and moderation of the roundtable, I leave Dr. Julio Guerrero. Welcome, Julio Guerrero. Thank you for being with us today. The floor is yours. Thank you very much, Karen. I'm going to speak in English.
Smaine and Nathan.
So that's Smaine and Nathan could follow the thread of the presentation, and the panel members, you can also choose the language you want to speak.
Thank you, Smaine, very much. Your presentation has been, in my opinion, fantastic, very good. You have addressed the points, the points that we talked about in advance. What I would like to do now is to keep as a framework for the roundtable the topic of your presentation and the points that you have highlighted. Keeping that as a framework, I will stimulate the conversation with the members of the roundtable. In several occasions, you, Smaine, will also be invited to be a player in the roundtable. Okay, so imagine that all of you are sitting around literally a round table. You are having the cup of coffee that you like the most. We will just relax and converse. Yes, I like that, Maria, Isabel. I also have one here. So we can share among us. In this sharing, the audience will learn, hopefully, a few new things. Okay, so I would like to, the way I will proceed is instead of asking each one of you to present yourself and invest some time of that, we will do that informally and we'll give a brief about each one of you, and then we will start the conversation. So the first topic that I would like to address is that there is a word that Smaine has mentioned several times in his presentation, and the word is change. And the other word that I noticed he has used a lot is embracing the change. And these two, and at the closing of your presentation, you also close by saying, something like change is the only constant. That's on one side. On the other side, anybody who is not an engineer and works or lives with engineers, they will say that we are a bit square, just a bit, right? We tend to, we all have some characteristics in common, right? So many people may be wondering, how come Smaine is talking about change being the only constant, embracing change? That's a good way to succeed in your professional life when engineers are, by many, considered to be very square, very predictable, and so on, right? So that's something that is just the reality of how we are perceived, but the reality is also that we need to prepare for that. So I will start randomly. I will choose Nathan. Nathan, he grew up in United States. You will notice that by his strong accent. He got his undergraduate degree in Yale, his graduate degree in Harvard, and he also did his postdoc at the MIT. He works also at the Schlumberger. I was very fortunate to work. My office and Nathan's office were close to each other for several years. So he learned how to understand the beautiful Peruvian accent. So I will, and he's, what he does at the Schlumberger is he has extensive experience in the mechanics and dynamics of mechanical systems employed in the upstream oil and gas services industry. And he's an inventor of more than 15 patents worldwide. So Nathan, the question for you is, through your path from undergraduate, graduate, and now in your professional life, what would you share with the attendees of this conference about how you perceive this continued challenge that we have faced or through our development, about this continuous change, unpredictable change? How have you learned to deal with that, both at, let's say, the strictly professional level, and also a little bit about the personal level that has allowed you to progress and you continue progressing in your professional life, please?
Sure. I mean, there's a lot there. First of all, hello, everybody. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. So I guess I would approach this both from the technical side and from the non-technical. From the technical side, I think it's very important to have a solid base of understanding of the sort of fundamentals of whatever area you are working in. So in my case, I mean, Smaine actually talked about solid mechanics, which is my specialty. And I echo everything he said, right? I have a strong sort of broad-based background in the mechanics, physics, and applied math that is used in solid mechanics sort of across all disciplines. And that has allowed me to continue to be productive as the industry and as new trends emerge. You know, the basics of physics and math don't change, right? So my recommendation is rather than focusing one's educational years on sort of a hot topic of the day or of the year, is to make sure that one is getting the broad, deep understanding of the fundamentals behind it. And so if I, you know, as an example, I have a background in applied math as well as, you know, mechanics and physics. And so that has allowed me to, while I'm not an expert by any means in artificial intelligence or machine learning, but that background in applied math has allowed me to certainly work closely with people who are and understand many of the techniques, even if I'm not super experienced in applying those techniques, but I understand sort of the theory and the math behind it. The other thing I would say is, for sure, I echo the idea that change happens throughout one's career. And I think sort of personally, the way I have dealt with that is by making sure that I have a network of peers and of mentors who can help me understand, you know, in our big company, we will have these announcements, and it seems like every month there's an announcement of some sort. And as a new engineer or scientist, it's hard to understand, what does this mean, you know, for me? What does this mean for the company? How should I manage this change? And it's through talking to trusted peers and particularly mentors who have been through this sort of thing before that you can understand what is the most productive way to respond, right? Whether it's you need to drop what you're doing and hop on this new thing, or whether it's, you know, let's think about how we can maybe redirect what we are already doing to be in line with this new direction.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So I feel that you are embracing this concept about that change is a constant in our career, but also there is a constant that we have to carry with us through the whole career, which is to have a profound and clear understanding of the fundamentals. Because understanding and mastering the fundamentals is the tool that will allow us to adapt through the different challenges that we will face during the career. That's more or less how I understand the points that you are sharing with us. Thank you, Nathan. So now we will go with Carlos Fosca. Your number came randomly from the box. So Carlos, I have had the pleasure to interact with him a few times. He is professor at a Catholic University in Lima. He had one of the highest managing positions in the university, equivalent to basically reporting to the president of the university. And I will leave up to Carlos to share with us 30 seconds of your technical background. And then after that, I would like to present you with the same question, but with a different angle. So you have most of your career have the pleasure to interact with the new engineers. You form them, you teach them, right? So what could you share with us about the challenges that you have faced and continue facing as a professor at one of the best universities in Peru to prepare them to understand that as engineers, they will have to embrace this continuous change, especially considering we all were young people a few years ago. When you are very young, you are very focused on, okay, I need to finish in this number of years. I have to get a job. I have to start producing, blah, blah, blah. So we have a very fixed view of what the world is. And we don't know that probably 2 or 3 years after we leave the university, what we studied and we thought we were going to do will be a bit of very different. So please, Carlos, start by sharing with us 30 seconds, 1 minute about what you teach, and then please illustrate us about this question. Tu micrófono. No te estamos escuchando, creo.
Listo. Gracias, Julio.
Thank you, Julio. My name is Carlos Fosca.
Escrito Julio, yo soy profesor.
Julio has described myself. I'm professor at Católica University in Peru, a mechanical engineer profession. I did my doctor's in material science. That's my line of work for many years. And I teach for different careers of engineering, more than 25 years. So very brief, that's my background. And answering your question, Julio, I believe that it's very interesting. This topic is very interesting, the embracing change and how the young students are facing this. As you mentioned, Julio, when we were students, we were facing our professional careers. It was like, it was totally different. We were used to do a career in a company, work with them little by little, develop in professionally. Nowadays, the young people, the students, are part of a generation that they feel they need satisfaction quickly. They want to go very fast. They want to eat the world so fast, and that's very important because it allows to also nurture from these things, to be able to progress with them and contribute with them in a different way to what we were used to, and also to try to understand what's happening in the world. The world is very fast, it's changing dramatically. I don't know if it's good or bad. As Smaine mentioned, we are in a society that technology is accelerating everything. And I believe that the young people of today, the professionals, are aware that they should acquire some competencies to make them competitive, not only locally, but also globally. So I believe that they're more aware that the world is bigger for them and in opportunities. So they are more concerned. They are worried about training themselves constantly. I live this on a daily basis with my two children. They have recently they finished their career recently, and honestly, I didn't believe this, that this these predictions about the millennials and all these things, and now the centennials, that they were going to change the jobs rapidly, etc., etc. In my reality, it was totally different, but it's an absolute truth. And even in Peru, and it's not because the pandemic has really accelerated things and unemployment, but it's because they themselves are constantly looking for new opportunities. My daughter, in less than 2 years, she got, I think, three new jobs. For me, that's it kind of shocking, and she decided to do it that way. And my son, and he decided to go where he thinks he's going to be better. Even so, probably the salary is not as great, but they go where they think their professional development is going to be better directed. So I believe that opportunities are opening. This recommendation that Smaine was giving evidently are in a framework of a country like USA that has a lot of conditions, different conditions to Peru, but we are living these same situations. The recommendations by Smaine are perfectly let's say, applicable or adaptable to our country, considering that in the context where we live in. So we don't have this ecosystem where we could easily incorporate, where we could actually provide these fellowships or host students very easily in the use of the technologies. For example, at the university, we have biomedical engineering with another university, which is Cayetano, a leading university. And the market probably, it was not going to be able to receive them to these future engineers. But what was the focus of the Católica University, of those that were able to lead this career? We are aware that this market is not prepared, but we're going to make the professionals generate or make their own market, create their entrepreneurship, create development. And this is, I believe, one of the missions that we have done. This is a model that we have to mimic in other careers, because the opportunities are out there and we have to change the policies. Nowadays is very limited. During pandemic times, where the changes should have happened in a dramatic way, we have lived in Peru opportunities of technological development in the field of medicine produced here in the that could have perhaps opened more possibilities for saving lives, but unfortunately we have this resistance, these limitations from the government to drive the industry, and now to the good results obtained, still in a very low magnitude, perhaps promote the openness in policy so that industries, Peruvian industries, could actually boom in the country. And I don't want to speak more, and those are my thoughts. Think about this. I'm going to ask you this question later. As a professor, what are the challenges that you are facing in order to make students in the university learn these skills, adaptation, that are so necessary from here to 2040? Now, ahora,
Isabel, your number came up. So, but Isabel and Alfredo, I will come to you in a few minutes. So, but Isabel, I will switch a little bit the direction of the conversation. So Maria Isabel is the only one among us who is not an engineer. However, she has worked most of her life with engineers. She lives with engineers, so she's almost an engineer. Okay, so she has a company that is very focused on addressing a very important challenge that engineers faced when they leave the university, and is the gap in their education between what Nathan has called the hardcore or fundamental knowledge and the practical knowledge that they need in order to start practicing in the companies, right? So the company that Maria Isabel leads, and please, after this introduction, Maria Isabel, you feel free to correct me if I am not accurate in this brief description, right? But her company has partnerships with a number of professional societies in other countries, you name it, ASME, ASTME, IEEE, etc. Many companies send their young engineers and also young engineers to get trained on very practical aspects of that they will need for in their work, right? So now, having made that introduction about what you do, could you please share with us what have you observed in especially the young engineers, the ones between 1 and 10 years since they left the university? I'm doing that on purpose because that matches more or less the last 10 years that Smaine mentioned in his presentation, right? What have you observed the engineers lack the most, both on the hardcore and on the soft skills? I hope the question is not that extensive. Please help us.
Ok. Lo voy a hacer en español ya que me es más fácil.
Okay, so we work with a society of engineers in USA with ASME, SME, SATM, and FBA. We have seen through the years the evolution of engineers has been progressing. We have worked a lot with student chapters of these organizations, so this has helped us to connect with them. We have found that there was kind of a gap of what they learned in the university, and then when they went into the industry, they needed leadership. They had to have soft skills. And that's one of the things that we found that they were lacking. And we, little by little, we try to help them through these student chapters. We are many people that collaborate, engineers and non-engineers in those chapters, so that we can help these students that have to insert to the industry. So as Smaine mentioned, I took some notes about, and Julio, you also mentioned embracing change. Definitely through the years, we have been working with engineers almost 20 years, and we have seen how the engineers have changed. Something that I wanted to highlight of what we was mentioned here, digital learning, definitely these students are more advanced. What the typical client that we have who was continuous engineering education, now the students are coming with some skills that the let's say the older engineers don't have. Another thing we notice is the collaborative work. For example, they don't really have a problem to share what they're doing. And maybe our culture is I do my work, I have my training. Now they're so open to collaborate. I share this, so and you share what you have, and we can have a project. That's one of the positive things that I have seen in the new generation of students of engineering, and really make a difference. And you can see that there are these leaders that in pandemic, they have been fruitful, as Smaine says, self-leadership. We have seen this. There's a lot of these students due to the adversity in our country. We have a lot of adversity, economic resources in our country. Not everybody has the same purchasing power to get a job, have a good university. So there is the commitment that we as the older generation should contribute to them. And I think it's a commitment in which we should support them, support this new generation. For example, getting mentorship, not only on the technical side, but also on the give them the soft skills. I believe that's very important for them, and also give them the to have internships. As a generation, as an older generation, our commitment with the younger engineers is there. Give them some internships. And as I mentioned, it's a profile of an engineer that is different to the one we were used to some years ago. And as Carlos mentioned, they have a different mindset. I want the things ASAP. So to control that impetus, that stamina they have is kind of hard because they want everything quickly. It's a generation that wants results immediately, and we have to support them so that to be a little patient, to see that things is done by effort, and that effort takes time. And it's a total different mentality. One of the things that we noted is they want to work with companies that they feel that there is a commitment with the environment, with social responsibility. I had an interview with a student who said, okay, I want to work with you, but I see that you make a difference in the work. You're recycling. So he was so happy, and he was very honest answer. He wanted to work with because we did something that was good for the environment. So things like that. So the students have a different mentality. It's not like I want to make a lot of money. Of course, they want the things quickly, but salary is not the driver. How we can engage them? How do we make them engineers that are more committed and have an interest for the job, but also they don't really care jumping from one job to the next. For them is something that to add value. So if for them is significant to be with you, if not, they're gonna go to another company. So we have to accompany them. We have to support them. It's a generation that is totally different to what we have been used to. Maybe the 5 years or so, they change. Now we have more and more students, and with the technological changes, they're gonna keep coming. That was my contribution, Julio, the way I see it, this new generation, and what are the commitments that we have to take on board. Thank you very much.
Plant this seed in your coconut for the next question. So you can start thinking about that, which is from what you're experiencing with all the young engineers, again, the same bracket, the last 10 years, right? What would be your a priori suggestions that you would like to share with the academics from Latin America who are participating in this conference? I think your input will be very valuable. Okay, so now Alfredo, it's your time. I will have you introducing yourself. Please invest about a minute about what you do, what you have done in the last years. Through your whole career. The question I have for you is, as a practitioner, in your work in the engineering companies with which you have interacted, and not being part of this generation of the last 10 years, what have you perceived from your experience in Peru? Focus as much as possible in Peru, because I think one of the key or most valuable things that you bring to this round table is that you are a Peruvian engineer who practices in Peru. And I think that will enhance the perspective will enhance the conversation, right? So from your experience, please share with us, what are those things, 2 questions. What are those things that you feel have helped you the most to progress in your career at what I will call the hard engineering and the soft skills? And the second question is, what have you perceived that is very different in the new generation with whom you have interacted? Please, Alfredo, go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, who am I if I know myself? I am an industrial engineer. I got a master's in chemical engineering and a Ph.D. in economics at the University of Texas. I have worked at the World Bank for many years. Then I was a chairman of the energy regulator in Peru. I am the director of the master's program on management and economics, on mining management and economics. And I am again a director at Austin Hermin. So that's a brief introduction. Well, I have written a few books which may explain my background on energy economics, recently one on mineral economics. And also I have written some science fiction books, among others.
Excellent.
Well, now to go to your question. First of all, I have probably broad interests, and I see not one black swan, but a flock of black swans, because the world is changing a lot. We have had the COVID problem, we still have it. We are having this climate change problem, which is a huge thing, which is making us change completely our way of thinking and acting. And we don't know where this is going to take us, because temperatures are going to rise, part of the coasts are going to be flooded, and many people are going to become poorer than they are. They won't have enough to eat. Some of the fields will partially dry out, etc. So I think those are the challenges we have. And moving a little bit ahead, I have worked, therefore, on the mining industry and on the energy industry, and the places where I have done a few things, apart from writing these books, is as chairman of Austin Hermin, we developed a lot of regulations, a lot of supervision on to establish a better, to foster the development of the energy sector, both through regulations and through supervising the quality, etc. And at the Catholic University, what I try is to get the students to understand not only specific aspects of mining, but to have a broad look at what the mining industry is, where the world is going, and how they should look at things in their lives and in their work. In this case, in the mining sector, which is the topic I'm right now talking about. Now, I think that students need, first of all, to study a lot and to study things that are not only on their field, but to learn about more things, because history has taught us that many things have changed, including the wars, the civilizations that have disappeared, the new civilizations have developed, and how all this change puts people in different contexts. So that's one thing. Now, in their own fields, instead of just working as technicians, I think students need to have an interest in how the things they are doing, how they can be improved, and what new things they can do. Now, I'm somewhat sad to learn from Professor Zeroug, who gave a very good talk, that research and development in Latin America is very low compared to what it is in other parts. So what could be done there? I suppose that also what one of the other speakers said is that the engineers should try to go and work in other companies, not only in Peru, but abroad, because that'll expand their horizons, expand their way of thinking, and also they will come into new technologies, which unfortunately in Peru, in many fields are somewhat limited. And also they may then get into developing new things in companies in other countries, because in Peru and in Latin America in general, with some exceptions, there is not so much research and development, as Professor Zeroug already told us. Mixing one thing and the other, I think that somehow we need to attract companies that come to Peru, give them incentives, and get them to develop new things, and get that our people here not only work abroad, but also work in Peru in these new companies. Maybe that works, maybe it's not, maybe my idea is not that good, but I don't see another way out. Or else we're always going to be just bringing the technology and developments from abroad, not just applying them without doing more. And I think that's not the best for our country or for the people. Now, as to the younger generation, my students are from 24 to 45 years old. And these are engineers and lawyers, because this master's program is interdisciplinary, and a few economists. And I haven't come across this millennial idea. I think that is because these students are students that are kind of middle class, and they work in mines and enterprises like those, and they are just interested in developing more in their fields and on going ahead with their lives, and on becoming more and more skilled in their profession. So that's the kind of people that I have come across with. Now, it's possible that in other fields, as some of you have said, like in business or in some other careers, the students have this orientation, like what they characterize as millennials or centennials, which are looking more at these other aspects. But basically, the Peruvians that I know, I cannot. I will turn on the light in a minute, okay? Because I have to stand up and then I will interrupt the talk. So give me a few minutes and I'll go and turn on the light as soon as I stop talking. Okay. So basically, what I have seen is that these students are just trying to go ahead with their lives, to make an income, to develop a full life, and they are very interested in their profession. So my students, which are like every semester, there are like 20 students in this class. I mean, I teach many other courses and there are different kinds of students, but my students generally are more oriented towards developing their careers. So what I'm saying is, I'm not going against what others are saying, but I have to talk about what I see. And I think that if we take a sample of the professionals, maybe we'll get a stratified sample. And then from that stratified sample, we could get, and probably we'll see that on average, there is this generation of millennials. But I think that's not the case with, for example, mining engineers. They are interested in things like environment, but I see that they are more interested just in going ahead with their career. Yeah, I think I should not say more because I have taken a lot of your time, and I'm going to go and turn on the light.
Okay, that's excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much, Alfredo. But please stay connected because there are more questions for you. So sure. Now I will, and by the way, I like two things about you. Besides your accent, very, very nice accent. I also like that we have the same alma mater. I also went to UT Austin. So it's Smaine. The next question is for you. So you and I have something in common in the sense that we both grew up in continents very far from the United States, We came here to earn our graduate degrees, and we ended up working in large multinationals. You and I, we have conversed about this when we meet to have coffee in Cambridge, about the similarities, about the realities that we have faced, studying where we come from, and then embracing the challenges and opportunities in, let's call the northern hemisphere, right? And I bet there are many students and young engineers who are right now listening and attending this presentation. And I know this because I have given several of these presentations in the last years, and I usually come and presented with the same question, right? Like, they go and say, hey, Dr. Guerrero, what do you have to do so I can do exactly what you're doing, right? And my answer is usually, well, you don't have to do exactly what I'm doing. There are other ways to embrace life. But the question is, put yourself in the reality of the country where you grew up, which is very similar to the reality of Latin America. And please share with the students and the young engineers who are attending this conference what have helped you to progress in your career. But please emphasize, this is a suggestion, that in order to progress in your career, you don't have to only go to the United States to make it happen, right? You can also make it happen in other places. Please share in the most candid way your experience.
Thank you, Julio. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. I would say I have been very fortunate, actually, in my life. And I also, I think this is something that is shared with many of my, let's see, countrymen that I meet in Europe or in the US, that we have been quite fortunate. One of the reasons is that we grew up at a time where there was hardly any role model close to us that would give us a sense, actually, of how to move forward. Like, I mean, it was at that time also, I think, when I studied, and incidentally, I come originally from Algeria, North Africa. And at a time I grew up in the 70s and the 80s, the communications with the rest of the world was not as, if you like, as pronounced as it is now through the internet, through communication, through social media. And so it was limited. In a way, it was positive. I didn't have to worry about what I was missing. And that's important, actually. I was happy in the world I lived in. But in a way, it was negative because I didn't know what the rest of the world could afford me. And I was fortunate in the sense that I did well in school. I got a scholarship and then moved on to the US to continue my advanced studies. What I will speak is on how things have gone in the US, but also I could share that I am involved in, if you'd like, in trying to help those back home that are faced, if you'd like, of similar questions that you ask, that our Peruvian engineers are asking as well. And with friends and colleagues of mine that are from Algeria, we're trying to help one way or the other. And I can highlight that a bit. Perhaps I could start with that. Some of the initiatives that we're trying to take is really to help set a mindset. I think it's Maria Isabel highlighted this actually, and how to facilitate the coaching and the mentoring so engineers are better prepared to, if you'd like, to evolve in a, let's see, an industry as a full-fledged professional person. I think it's often it has to do with the attitude and the mindset. So we try to address that in various ways, and often through actually sharing of biographies of answers to the question that you asked, Julio, to make the impact on the young Algerians that they too can actually succeed in life and in professional careers. And it doesn't have to take having a scholarship to go to the US, for instance, or actually in my case, it was scholarship to come to the US, but really a fellowship in the US that allowed me actually to do my PhD. Furthermore, what we try to do is, with that setting of a mindset, is make them realize that the information and the knowledge are there. In particular, through the network that they are building with people that they know that have succeeded outside of the country in particular, but also on the internet, and it takes, if you'd like, I think some, if you'd like, some structured fashion, and learn how to use and how to find the right information and how to move forward in any particular project. So we're trying to help in that also through, I would say, through given seminars around some technical domains of interest to them. So myself, I'm involved in the Institute of Earth Sciences in my alma mater back in Algeria, where I did my physics. And we take the opportunity to go beyond, if you'd like, the technical by answering questions that may have, and again, insist on this mindset that they too can actually succeed in life, but highlighting actually that it takes sometimes hard work, intelligent work, and that any journey starts with the first mile, and that could take thousands of miles before they did succeed.
Yes.
Now, very briefly, as to my experience in the US, if you'd like, in an industry that at the forefront for many years of the world in providing energy, but also in a company that is a leading in terms of bringing innovation to its sector. I did benefit from the opportunities actually to be able to go from, I think, being a scientist and a developer of perhaps innovative solutions to also understand the business by pushing actually to learn more about business through an MBA and through training classes that I took. I did that purposely because the country that I came from, the universities that I went to back home, did not prepare me, if you'd like, for to tackle an industrial organization or working with teams, going beyond being a technical contributor. And I took it upon myself, and that's a message that I often actually pass on to my nephews, my nieces, but also students back in Algeria or here. That indeed, actually, it's important to, at some point within the initial phase of any professional career, to start looking beyond and taking the risk in throwing yourself and requesting to work in various capacities. Often when we realize, actually, as engineers, we are rather well prepared to tackle something that perhaps that doesn't have to do anything with technical skills, but through the skills that we acquire, and if you'd like, in critical thinking and in taking, if you'd like, cutting down a problem in small pieces and solving it one piece at a time. Often the skills tend to be good actually also in dealing with organization, in dealing with business problems. And one learns on the job simply because of the attitude of that we have as engineers, which is constantly learning about how to solve problems. So I was fortunate to be given opportunities to go to operations, to work in marketing, to work in organization, in particular at international locations, which I really embraced. I'm actually, I had to adjust and seek that my family sees also positive outcomes to that, which they did actually adhere to. And we, my wife, my children thrived, if you'd like, through that experience. So I had to make sure that they too have the right setting to continue and thrive. And that's important also. I think it's in succeeding in technical life, one has to also keep an eye on striking a balance with personal life and those that depend on you depend on, that also they thrive and they have their own success. Okay, so I hope I answered some of your questions.
Yeah, you did. So we will proceed to, I already posted the questions to Carlos Fosca and María Isabel. So I will give each one of them about 2-3 minutes to answer. But I want to pose Nathan with a very strange question. Could you please think about a question that you would like to ask Carlos Fosca, who is a professor in an important university in Peru? Just that. We are in a coffee, and please think about a question that you would like to ask him. The reason why I'm choosing you, Nathan, is because I perceive that you have worked successfully through 3 of the most, if not the best universities in the United States. You are having a successful professional career in one of the biggest oil and gas companies. And I think it would be very good to have you, especially you, asking the professor in Peru a question that maybe just fulfill some of your curiosities about how the system works. Any question that you want to ask will be welcome. So think about that. So now we will move to Carlos. Please, you have your 3 minutes. You already have the question.
Muy bien, Julio. Bueno, voy a tratar de que en 3 minutos responder.
Try in 3 minutes, try to answer that question.
Tratar de responder a
I'm going to try to answer that question. How do, in the different universities, how we're trying to train our students in this adaptation to change? This is a complex question. The university system in general is very resistant to change. So these skills, these competencies we provide to the students, we do this through the standpoint of what the academics have, which is not to be continuously adapting ourselves to the different realities. I agree with Anthony that he said that the most important thing here is to have a solid base of knowledge that allow you to face the different challenges that you have to tackle every day. And that's what the university does. We provide them a solid formation in the science, mathematics, engineering. We are criticized a lot because we are perhaps too theoretical, or we give them too many subjects that perhaps could go at postgraduate level. But we believe that this is an important point, and thank God so far our graduates are well prepared and recognized in the market. And I acknowledge that what Maria Isabel was mentioning, one of the weak points perhaps in general, all the engineers and the ones that graduate from a university is the communication skills. We have to work hard with them, and this is something that we have to look with more intensity. Another thing that I wanted to think about, adaptation to change, is not only have this base to basically move quickly. When I was graduated from the university in Peru, I lived or my generation was considered the lost generation. We were from a disastrous economy. We were not going to have a future. The majority of the people of that generation migrated because there were no working opportunities in Peru. The ones who stayed here, it was very difficult for us. And what happened there was a type of professional, like an all-terrain professional. He didn't cower for anything. He was very courageous. With the little bits, he could do lots of things, and that was the added value that the situation posed. This reaction on the students. We have lived different moments. Then in the history of in my country, we led a booming, an economic booming, and our children have been growing in different situation, a total reality. For example, we thought that they were even at some years they were kind of, let's say, spoiled by the situation, totally different to what we have lived on. And however, this pandemic allow us to these young people to develop other kinds of capabilities that we haven't seen before. The capability of resilience, a big resilience that has basically meant 2 years, almost 2 years now, of a pandemic, of a situation that has affected many people in our country. Many people lost their jobs, and the young people with no job opportunities. And however, there has, and perhaps this is in the DNA of the Peruvian, and perhaps in countries in Latin America, this entrepreneurship spirit that we have. So, as you know, the world ranking in Peru, Peru is considered with the most entrepreneurship spirit. Of course, entrepreneurship is very little technology based. The opportunities of growth and scaling is so little, but they want to be entrepreneurs. And what we have seen in this time of pandemics is that the young people have not just been at home crying and being depressed. They went out to look for opportunities, and they didn't find the opportunities in the market. They invented their own opportunities. So I think this is absolutely valuable, because what it's saying is that there are some opportunities in them so that they can basically position themselves in the change. So they have those characteristics that are going to help. And the fear that I have in the future is that this pandemic and this situation of our country with a governance crisis we have, maybe they are going to migrate to other countries, and we're going to lose this material, this resource that we have today. And the other topic, I leave it on the table. As a country, developing country, we have to think that we have to face all these technological changes. That technology is going to come to my country. And maybe we're a developing country. The companies would like to be more competitive. They're going to come here, robotics, Internet of Things, etc., etc. But the thing is that they're not going to find people with the competencies to face this. We have around 33% of our graduates have higher education. If you compare this to Chile, that has 60 or 64%, of course, there's a big difference. So therefore, competitiveness in the future. So the big challenge in a country is not only increase the number of students with the skills and everything, but in technology, is also to promote the quality has been talking about, and we keep on improving in quality. So we have big challenges coming ahead, and then we have to do this big leap into entrepreneurship and innovation and technologically based. And I believe that's going to made it possible to be more competitive in the medium and short term. Thank you very much.
So the next question will be addressed by María Isabel. But before we do that, so we get Carlos Coconut working and getting ready, Nathan, please ask your question to Carlos so he can start thinking about that. By the way, after Carlos answers, we will have a last round for each one of you to articulate something like a closing statement of, let's say, 2 minutes each. Okay, Marisa. Oh, wait. Nathan, please go ahead with your question.
Yeah, so I guess I would ask the question, I have been part of a lot of industrial and academic collaborations here in the United States, and I'm quite familiar with those. So I'd be interested to understand what are the opportunities there. Are companies and or universities seeking these sorts of collaborations? And if so, what does that look like?
Excellent. Okay, Carlos, start cranking your answer. Okay, so María Isabel, you're next.
Okay. You asked me about what would I share with academics. The younger generation is looking for more hands-on learning. They want to have more experience, and not only classroom experience, but just more, let's say, technical and training on the job, no? So that's one of the things that I think that let's say the education of a future engineer should be more towards that, giving them obviously the soft skills, as we mentioned before, but also hands-on training, which we need to be, like I said, closer to the industry for that. One of the things that I want to say is it's very important, networking. And I think that by being part of an international association, let's say like ASME or SME, we work very closely, especially with SME now, with the mining engineers here in Peru. And I see when they do networking is that they bring opportunities to themselves. I mean, we are able to do whatever we want. It's not that because we're in Peru, we're behind the rest of the world. We're not. We're connected now all over the world. So we're able to do whatever we want. And that's one of the things that I think is very important. If you are interested in connecting to the world, be part of a student chapter or be part of these young leaders of society. No, I have the experience working with STM also with the new student chapters. We have a new chapter with UTEC, for example, and I'm really impressed of how they're developing also the SME students. We have about 30 chapters in Peru, and these kids, I mean, they really like to meet people from other countries. During the pandemic, we have achieved that they get together. Now they have a Latin America board. They do joint events, which they didn't do before. And also what they're doing is they're starting to, the industry, I mean, they put a challenge to them. And by giving them a challenge, they start working on solving problems. And that's, I think, very important because that makes them closer to the industry and increases the innovation ecosystem. There are a lot of startups in Peru that are very good. And there are incubators also here that are working with us developments and that can provide capital at what they need and mentoring also in different, also in technical backgrounds. So I think it's very important that we also give importance to this innovation incubators because there are venture capitals and angel investors that are looking for these projects that will improve certain areas of the industry. So I've seen also in mining, for example, there's a challenge. There was a hackathon done by the Instituto de Ingeniería Minas here in Peru, and they just threw a problem to them, and the students came up with solutions, you know. So we as Peruvians were able to do whatever we want. It's just, let's say, the older generation, we have to help them develop the skills and give them the opportunity. And as I said, networking is very, very important. They need to be connected with the world. There are opportunities that, there are opportunities that they sometimes Peruvians that have are abroad, like you, Julio, for example, are in the US. We see some of the professors in universities that are teaching, and they're Peruvians. They're coming back to bring Peruvians as assistants, and they're given opportunity to do master's degree that sometimes we don't know about, but the networking lets them know what's available for them. So I think it's very important. I mean, my main keyword will be networking.
Networking, excellent. Thank you very much, María Isabel. So it's about 7:50 here, so 6:50 in Peru. So Carlos, your answer to Nathan's question will be actually your closing statement. Bien. Okay. Yeah, I have to adapt. Correcto. So please give your answer, bien, which will be your closing statement.
Sí, yeah. la respuesta es.
The answer is there is a great potential of collaboration between the industry and the university, and that's what we have to promote greatly. In the previous years, through a law 3039, that was to promote scientific research, technology, commercial, to get the universities close to the industries, innovation and technology development. These are important initiatives that is happening. Of course, there's very little because 6 years or so, 61 companies have considered this type of benefits, tax benefits. We are starting this in a country where for many, many years, research, innovation, and development were not really present in the agenda of the government. So it's a need, and the universities and the companies are working towards that.
Thank you, Carlos.
Muchas gracias.
You will be the first in the last round. Well, the second. The first one was Carlos. So please invest about 2 minutes or something like that for your closing statement. Something that the young engineers and the students will be able to remember 30 years from now. No pressure.
Well, I thought actually the question of the realization that there is a big disparity between the North and the South. I think this came through quite frequently in this discussion through this panel. The fact that South America, if you look at the R&E budget that is invested, is about, I think, 2.2% on an annual basis, or at least figures of 2020. That Africa, a continent like Africa, for instance, is contributing with 0.9%, whereas the rest is really North America, Europe, and China and India. So that gives you the extreme disparities, if you'd like, in terms of the investment, of course, the opportunities available to engineers in the North versus engineers in the South. So let me just address this one. I think it's a big challenge for South America and for Africa. And what I would say, and I join there, Maria Isabel, is that the world has become smaller from the communication point of view, from the networking. From a connection point of view, the technology has enabled actually the world to come closer, if you'd like. And what I see, in particular in Africa, in my own home country, Algeria, potentially in some parts of Peru, and I think Professor Fosca indicated to that, perhaps there is a certain, certain mindset. Perhaps there is a lack of confidence that the engineers in the South lack, in particular the new generation. And perhaps that's where what I see actually a role for diasporas of these countries, whether Peruvians working in the North, whether Algerians working in the North, a big role there to address, that is to connect and help bring up that level of confidence. So the new engineers, the students in the South gain self-confidence and initiate that networking, if you'd like, first with diaspora, I mean, people from their own, if you'd like, background, but potentially also, if you'd like, extend it to the opportunities that are going to be available. And there are going to be plenty of opportunities because the world actually needs engineers in larger numbers. And smart engineers will always, if you'd like, will be needed, whether they are in Chicago, in Boston, or rather actually in Lima, or in some capital, in some small place in South America. To the extent that they have the networking, meaning here the internet and the communication means, and they have, if you'd like, again, role models that elevate their self-confidence, to believe in themselves and start learning on their own and start actually not only initiating, if you'd like, initiating small projects and mentorship with their diaspora members, but more importantly, sustaining that initiative. What I have found out actually is that, at least personally, and some of my colleagues, as we try to help Algerian young engineers, what we see is that we tend to push quite heavily. We don't see that pull being sustained. And that what we are brainstorming now among colleagues, if you like, Algerians. How can we sustain? So it's really the young Algerian engineers that are pulling towards that desire to learn more, to network, to get into projects, and they sustain that initiative on their own and then expand it, if you like. So to start small companies and to offer services at a much lower cost to those in the northern who are looking for a labor, smart labor, if you'd like, a capable labor force. So with that, I just want to conclude, actually, diaspora have a big role to play. And one key challenge that they need to address is how to bring up the self-confidence in the young engineers in the South so they believe in themselves and they develop themselves. Thank you.
Smaine, thank you very much for your wise closing statement. Alfredo, you have been randomly chosen. Please, in about 2 minutes, give us your closing statement. Then we will proceed with María Isabel, then Nathan, and then we will take a picture all smiling in front of the camera. Okay, Alfredo, go.
Okay, 2 minutes. My first minute is, as I said, I believe that students in engineering fields should learn more about other fields. Like, for example, the case of history. The world is now where it is because it had an evolution. First, we had the decline of the Roman Empire, for example. Then we had centuries until we came to the Industrial Revolution. They need to know what happened then, how we are, where we are now. And so they need to have that thinking background in their minds. There are many more things I could say, but there's no time. The second part is what some of my colleagues have said. We need more technology development in countries like Peru. How we do that is the tricky question. I mean, the government could do something. It could provide incentives so that there is more technology development in Peru, but also that companies want to come to Peru and bring their technology and do their research and develop many things here. And then the other thing is that there are some things that the government could do and is not doing, like, for example, disaster prevention and reconstruction, where there is a lot to do. And if you look at what is happening in Peru, we don't have experts in those fields. And those are fields where we need a lot of expertise. Peru is a country where many of these things are going to happen. I mean, they're going to happen all over the world, but in Peru, we have a very frail territory. And so I think that we need to do much more research also on fields like that. And because that depends on the government, nobody is doing it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. María Isabel, please.
Okay, I just have 4 things that I wrote down. Is, first of all, like I mentioned, networking with professionals from other countries. Then connection also with the diaspora, as Smaine said, is very important that we as Peruvians connect with other Peruvians that are abroad. Promoting innovation through challenges, internal challenges within the country, and connecting with other people in other countries. And one of the things I always tell the students, and it's very important, is we need them to speak English, promote that they learn English, because that's a way for them to connect with the rest of the world. And I think we have to also to promote that with students here in Peru.
Thank you very much, María Isabel. Nathan, this is your turn.
So I'm going to return to the concept of change and I think one way or another, either within the company you work for or by moving from company to company, everybody is going to experience change often in their careers. And the thing I always tell young scientists and engineers is at any given time, you're going to be working on something and you need to be able to both be the technical expert in that area, but you also need to understand why what you're working on is important. Because either when you go to a job interview in your next job, you need to be able to explain what you were working on and why, or when the new boss comes in and the new manager comes in and says, why are you working on this? It's not going to be an acceptable answer to say, well, because the guy who was here before told me to work on it, right? That is not, you're not going to impress anybody by saying that. So to me, it's you need to be the technical expert in what you're working on, and that you need to focus on that. But you also need to insist on understanding, either through mentors, through management, whoever, of why the company is working on this, why this is important, to understand the context of what you are working on.
Excellent. So this is perfect. This is like an engineering project. We are 1 minute from reaching the 8 p.m. So I will take a few seconds to share a personal statement. Personally, I'm very, very thankful to my colleagues in Peru who have been so gracious to give me the opportunity to collaborate in a humble way with the organization of this conference. I hope we can create more opportunities like this to bring people from all over the world. In the last 3 days, we have had researchers, engineers from different countries, continents, and I think it has been a very enriching experience, both for the Peruvians and Latin American who were attending the conferences, as well as for the presenters. I bet Smaine and Nathan, for example, in this round table, they have enjoyed very much our accent, and they have enjoyed very much learning about